What's going on, people? All right, so this isn't what I do. I don't normally do things like this. I don't really make videos. But this whole Wade Robson thing with James Safechuck and leaving Neverland, I'll admit it, upon first watch, kind of believed it. Honestly, I even posted comments on YouTube like a weasel, trying to like go at MJ supporters. Like, I really did, no lie. There's literally things I said to MJ supporters like an asshole, because I was like, how can they defend this man? That's just blind faith, blah, 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 blah. But then I just decided to do a little research. I looked into some body analysis, voice analysis, stuff like that, where, you know, you can kind of, when dealing with a case like this, that's very important to me, because in all honesty, what other proof is there other than the actual testimony of these two individuals? And what's funny to me is even Dan Reed, to a certain extent, when he goes on interviews like Piers Morgan, he did Good Morning Britain, it's almost like he doesn't even believe it. And even he knows it's a stretch. There were things that were omitted from this documentary with the simple fact that it would totally debunk at least Wade Robson's story. And it's funny to me how the mainstream media, now you can say, oh, conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. But it's very true. The mainstream media, who are supposed to be journalists, have not even mentioned the fact that Wade Robson dated Brandy Jackson, Michael's niece, for almost 8 years, and they knew each other from when they were like 9 years old. So they basically dated that entire timeline that Wade Robson is claiming that Michael Jackson basically molested him. So how could you omit something like that from the documentary? It's just so ridiculous to me. Like, how could something that important be omitted? And why do I think personally? Because it's so blatant that they're lying. I mean, Safechuck, I swear to God, people think he looks sad, blah, blah, blah. I think Safechuck is depressed because he knows deep down what he's doing is wrong. He knows it. And it's just like, it's so, I feel as though it's so scripted, and everything they say is calculated. They don't want to make missteps. But you look at Wade Robson's case, right? The judge, when he went to trial, you know, a couple of years back, threw it out for inconsistencies in the fact he was also trying to shop a book deal that had even more inconsistencies in this memoir. All right? Now, Michael Jackson, although was a strange character, although hard to grasp in the visual, I think that's a lot of it too, because he was such an enigma, like with all the plastic surgery, the fact that he had, you know, a skin disorder, whatever it's called. Oh, forget it. I'll remember it after. I can't remember off the top of my head. My mind's drawing a blank right now. But all these things basically made him seem as though he was a weirdo. I mean, the fact that the FBI were investigating him for 10 years and found nothing. Think about that. The FBI, leave no stone unturned, could not prosecute. The first trial, Jordy Chandler had a chance to testify against Michael. That's why the case broke down. He didn't testify. Now, you could say that's hush money, but they already got the money and they were still allowed to testify. You get what I'm saying? So it was clearly a money grab by the parent, all right? I don't know what other reason there could be. I mean, if you look at the actual facts of the case, they were going to run two cases, right? The civil and the criminal. They were going to run the civil case prior to the criminal. Now, anybody in MJ's position, right, where they're clearly trying to frame him, all right? I mean, if you do research on that DA, you can see what kind of man he was. Like, he was clearly out to get MJ. It reminds me of, like, in the 60s, right? When you would go, you'd see, like, these old clips of the 60s from, like, these former, like, segregationists, like, these, you know what I mean? He gave off that persona of, like, a segregationist style Southerner that clearly was going after MJ over, like, in my opinion, racist reasons, you know? Because if you think about it, the amount of pedophilia in Hollywood is rampant, okay? And I know, you know, you might say it's a conspiracy, this and that, but there's facts to back it up. You know, I'm not going to get into all those facts because you could just type it in on YouTube and you'll come across a million conspiracies. A lot of them true, sad to say. But Michael Jackson didn't do it. I mean, he was exonerated in 2005, which, if you ask me, these people are using the testimony. Okay, so this guy, Dan Reed, basically says in Good Morning Britain that, you know, the chambermaid, the former driver, this and that, all these people that he's mentioning have been cross-examined in 2005 and didn't say what they said. They said they were lying for money, all right? These tabloids pay, all right, for stories. People are getting offered money for stories. That's why people don't understand how corrupt the mainstream media is, all right? Now, mind you, okay, when Jussie Smollett lied, you know, certain people believed him. Certain people didn't. But eventually the truth came out, okay? And why did the truth come out? Because there was inconsistencies in a normal person, you know, doing normal things, like going out at 3 a.m. to get Subway and 20 below. When you have, you know, Uber Eats. I mean, I'm sure he could have found something, you know, through Uber Eats. But that's besides my point. My point is the mainstream media is backing him, all right? And now they're backing Safe Chuck and Wade Robson the same way. They're backing them for reasons I don't know, because any investigative journalist who did just the slightest bit of research, the slightest bit, right, could find inconsistencies in this story, all right? Safe Chuck's story comes straight from a book, for Christ's sake, about, you know, a propaganda book that basically portrays pedophilia as a good thing, all right? And it was like, you know, it was supposed to be Jordy Chandler's secret diary, blah, blah, blah. You know, some conspiracies say that it was Jordy's father who was, like, helping write this book, like, giving this guy information and stuff like that, who, for all intents and purposes aside, Jordy Chandler's father ruined his life. And it's funny to me because, like, I've heard various amounts, you know, given what, how much they were given and this and that. But in the back of my head, I always wonder, right, if Michael Jackson was so upset because he was such good friends with Jordy at the time, he gave him money knowing, like, he probably wasn't going to be able to see him again, but, you know, he wanted to make sure he was all right as a friend. Because I'm beginning to realize that's the kind of person Michael Jackson was. I can't believe, like, for the longest time, I just took everything at face value. I watched the mainstream media tear this guy apart. Tear him apart, okay? He's torn apart in movies. He's torn apart in music. And slowly but surely, all right, you stop believing it. Growing up, I listened to Eminem a lot, okay? Now, I already thought Michael was strange, but you see Michael Jackson getting made fun of by Eminem, and as a young, impressionable child, you're like, oh, well, Eminem, you know, not that Eminem saying it's got to be true, but, you know, it's a good punchline for him, you know? And I'm beginning to realize there were more sinister things at work with the defamation of MJ. It's almost like industry execs were out to destroy his character. I mean, there's very good documentaries on, you know, all his money that, you know, he was basically due through Sony and all the publishing rights that he owned through Sony. He basically owned half the music industry. You know, you got someone like Tommy Mottola, who clearly, you know, for all intents and purposes, he could have started these rumors Because right after he signs with Sony, you know, and gets, you know, everything squared away and gets these crazy deals, that's when the defamation of characters started, you know, with the Jordy Chandler case. And that's when they tried to swoop in and steal his publishing. So, you know, this guy has been falsely accused ever since he made it to the top. Now, I don't want to make it a race thing just because, I mean, it's more than just a race thing. It's a power thing, right? Michael Jackson had a lot of power in the music industry, right? And there's other people who aren't at face value, in your face, like MJ was, who have power too. That can't allow someone like Michael Jackson, with, sad to say, his good intentions, right? Michael Jackson, deep down, was a decent human being, okay? Hollywood isn't decent. The music industry isn't decent. Now, what happens if all the power in the music industry goes to an actual decent human being? What kind of changes could occur? You know, I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but you got to really think about these things, because he came across, in all his interviews he's ever done, is so genuine. Now, you could say he's lying, he's an actor, da-da-da. But at the end of the day, right, Michael Jackson, if you look at his body language, right, any body language expert, okay, now, mind you, because of these allegations, the only thing you can really go on me, per se, is testimony. And body language is a part of testimony. Because you know what? Anybody can say, I could sit here and say, yeah, I hung out with Michael Jackson from the ages of 5 to 14, and he raped me for 9 years straight. Every day, there was sexual abuse. You know, he told me that if I told anyone, we'd go to jail. You know, and he anally penetrated me. And then when the 2005 jury, you know, he asked me to testify for him, you know, even though I knew the other kid was getting raped by Michael, I still, you know, had to, you know, stick up for him, because, you know, I was so in love with him. Love with him, my ass, dude. You were dating his goddamn niece, and you cheated on her with Britney Spears. Which, honestly, after seeing MJ's niece, you're crazy, because that girl is beautiful, first and foremost. Second off, right, on top of being beautiful, she seems like a genuine person. And from what I know about Britney Spears, I mean, that was a bad look. Now, knowing Wade Robson, he probably did it to further his career or something like that, because that's exactly what he's doing now. We are now in the age of the victim, okay? The victim nowadays, right, is, you know, believe more than others. And I'm sorry, if there's real victims out there, listen, speak up. I would never say don't speak up. You have to speak up, all right? If you're getting molested, raped, anything, speak up about it, because you know what? Nowadays, there's so many avenues to help you. You know, there's no need to keep things secret, right? But this guy changed his testimony multiple times. The judge threw it out, right? Because there were so many inconsistencies. A jury would never believe it, right? Like, why in God's name is the mainstream media not doing this research? How does the mainstream media call itself journalism, okay, and want us to believe them? But, all right, my perfect example is this, right? Whether you love or hate Trump, okay, when you don't do research and you put out stories, right, it starts to make you question other stories you put out, okay? So, Michael Cohen, for example, right? Who's to say Michael Cohen isn't doing the same thing as Wade Robson? The media sure believes it, but he has something to gain out of it, All right? He does. And you can't say he doesn't because he's going to jail first and foremost. He's coming out unbarred, not a lawyer anymore, okay? He's going to get a book deal. He's going to put himself on the right side of history, so to speak, through the mainstream media's eyes. Think about that. Now, don't get me wrong. I hear a lot of the things Trump does and I cringe, right? But at the same time, I can't take what the media says at face value anymore because I've been lied to by them so much, like so much. So, I mean, you got to just do your research nowadays. But the thing is, I'm not a journalist, okay? I shouldn't have to do these researching things, like and research about this and that. I shouldn't have, that's the media's job, okay? That's the media's job. So, the fact that Michael Jackson had a one-sided documentary, Oprah basically supports it. Now that has me thinking, what sinister forces is Oprah really thinking? Because Oprah's not an idiot, okay? Oprah is not an idiot. She is a smart, savvy businesswoman, okay? Deep down. She knows what she's doing, all right? What is the reasoning? I understand the platform. I understand the story goes through grooming and all this and that. And she used that as a platform. But at the same time, why didn't she pick them apart, you know? Or at least have a counter statement saying like, why is all this testimony this? Why? She didn't ask one question in that interview about the validity of the documentary. She was trying to put a stamp on it, an exclamation point on it, to make the average person believe you. A lot of people are believing this interview just because, I mean, this mockumentary, just because Oprah put her stamp of approval on it. You realize this. A lot of America is believing this because Oprah Winfrey put the stamp of approval on it, okay? What is her reasoning behind putting the stamp of approval on it is what I want to know. Is it Harvey Weinstein? Is it, you know, Geffen? Is it, what's the reason? What does she stand to gain out of this? Now, the answer that, you know, you'll hear is, oh, well, it's raising awareness for grooming and grooming, sexual molestation through grooming and all this other stuff. I don't buy it. There's something else that is making her feel a need to come out about this and do this. What it is, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you know, MJ said it best, right? Lies run sprints, the truth runs a marathon. And with that, I'm done with this episode. I'll be back to talk about this a little bit more, maybe tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll give you actual research and I'll show you like things. Because you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't a huge MJ fan. You know, I loved him. Like, you know, his music, you know, certain songs. But I didn't go out of my way to listen to him. You know? So I'm not coming at this from a fanboy point of view. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming at this from a objective point of view. All right? And with an objective point of view, it's easy to see that these two individuals are being deceptive. All right? It's Luigi signing off. Have a great day, everybody.